As we saw in the last movie, each file in a book can have its own number, but you can also name each chapter in your book too. In fact, the naming is actually based on sections, and as we saw in the Essential Training title, you can have more than one section in a single document. That means you can assign a different name to different parts of even one file. There are two techniques for doing this, using a section marker or using a text variable. I'm going to show you both of those methods in this movie. I have chapter 1 open from the T-book, and I'm going to jump to page 3 by pressing Command-J on the Mac or Control-J on Windows, typing 3, and then hitting Enter. I would like the name of my chapter to show up here in the header of these pages. I see that this text frame has a dotted edge, and that means it's a master page item. So if I'm going to change that, I better go to the master page. I'll click on the Pages panel. I'll double-click on master page A, and then I'll scroll over with Option spacebar or Alt spacebar on Windows so we can see this text. Why don't I zoom in to 200% here, Command 2 on Mac or Control 2 on Windows, and I want to replace this name with the name of the chapter. So I'll delete that, and I'm going to add a section marker. I'll do that by going to the Type menu, choosing Insert Special Character, going to the Markers submenu, and then choosing Section Marker. Now it says section here because we're on a master page. If we go back to page 3, we can see that it's completely blank here. Why? Because I haven't set up my section marker yet. Now I need to set up the section marker, what that text should be. So I'm going to double-click on this little black arrow above page 1, and that opens the Numbering and Section Options dialog box for page 1. I'll type in the section marker field the name of the chapter. In this case, it's The Cup of Humanity. There we go. As soon as I type it in here and click OK, you'll see it appears wherever the section marker is used on my master page. Now what happens if I create a new section in my document? I'll choose page 4 by single-clicking on it in the Pages panel, and then I'm going to right-click on that to open the Context menu. But here I've opened the Context menu, and I can choose Numbering and Section Options dialog box. That is the same thing as choosing Numbering and Section Options out of the flyout menu of the Pages panel. Here, I'm going to say this is a new section. I'm going to get rid of this silly section prefix thing, which, as I talked about in the Essential Training title, I hate that little prefix. And I'm going to put in a new section marker here called This is Another Section. I don't remember what the section is going to be called. I'll just put that in the marker area. Click OK, and then I'm going to go to page 5 by double-clicking on it, and I'll use Option spacebar or Alt spacebar, and we'll see that now the header has changed. So on page 3, it says The Cup of Humanity, but here on page 5, it says This is Another Section. Now I'm going to show you a second technique for setting up these running heads using variables, and in fact, this is even easier than using section markers. I'm going to go up to the File menu and choose Revert, just so I can get back to where I was when I first opened this document. Now I'm going to go back to my master page, just like I did before. I'll scroll over, click in this text frame with the Type tool. I'll zoom in to 400% with Command 4 on the Mac or Control 4 on Windows, and I'm going to replace this text. I'll hit Delete. I'm going to replace that with a variable. So I'll go to the Type menu, I'll choose Text Variables, and I'll look for my Insert variable for chapter name. I don't have a chapter name, so I better go create one myself. I'll choose Define, click New, and I'll say this is going to be my chapter name variable. We saw how to do this in the Essential Training title, but just a quick review. We type in the name here, and we choose from the Type pop-up menu, Running Header Paragraph Style. And I'm going to choose the first use of the paragraph style called Chapter Head. The name of the chapter in this document has been tagged with this particular paragraph style, so I'm going to go grab it with this variable. I'll click OK, click Done, and now in the master page header, I can say this is chapter number. I want to get the number. We saw how to do this in the previous movie. From the Type menu, choose Text Variables, Insert Variable, Number, and then I will type space, and why don't I just put a vertical bar in here and another space just to break this up a little bit, and then I'll say Type Variables, Insert, Chapter Name. There's the variable we just created. Now, because we're on the master page, it doesn't know what to type in there, so it just says the name of the variable. But as soon as we go back to page 3, we can see that it updated automatically. There's no section markers in here. Remember, we reverted back to the previous version without the section markers. So it just went and grabbed the first instance in this document of that paragraph style and stuck it here. And it'll show up there on every subsequent right-hand page. Very, very easy, very convenient. Of course, we could also change this to update not based on the chapter name, but based on the section headers or whatever. Let me zoom back with a Command Option 0 or Control Alt 0 on Windows, and I can see that instead, if I wanted to base the header on this paragraph style instead of the chapter name paragraph style, I could do that as well. I would simply have to update the paragraph style. So why don't I go do that? Type text variables, define, and I'm going to change the chapter name. So I'll click on Edit, and I'll change this to Section Name. You can name it anything you want, and I'll change this to Heading 1 instead. As soon as I click OK and click Done, you see that it updates on our page immediately. So now this says Chapter 1, but it gives me the section name instead, Littleness of Great Things, which is the first instance on this page of that section. If I go to the next spread by pressing Option Page Down or Alt Page Down, here it says T-Cult, and that's reflected up in my header as well, where it says T-Cult. Before section markers and variables, I just spent way too much time updating my page headers. Now it's all automated. Just change the section name in one place and boom, it's updated. It's so easy. I love it.